the YouTube will probably start for the next one. No, I guess there's a lot. No, I have one more to say. Oh shoot. There it is. So that's cool in a couple ways. Now, so it explains the donor's opinion towards an endowed scholarship, and their dollars are in the. It might be up to $100,000 now. It's not gigantic. It's big money, but it's not like tens of millions of dollars. But Debbie really wanted to make a gift, so Dan's on our board of overseers. He's engaged as a volunteer. We work with them a lot. We visit them. They've given us other monies over the years and been very generous. She came to us with the idea. So I talk about when you do this right, they thank you for the gift. It's her idea. I want to give Dan a Christmas present. And so then we have an annual, the Heritage Society you saw there. That's our plain giving society. If you make a plain gift or an endowment gift, you belong to that. We have a brunch every spring where we invite all the donors and their scholarship recipients to sit with them. So he comes to brunch, and Marissa Lease, his scholar, will sit with them and they'll have brunch together with some other donors and other scholars. So they get excited. Then what you do as part of the whole stewardship chain, you're working with them to leave a plain gift when they're gone, to really leave that thing. So what they're doing, and we do that backwards now. Some people come to us and say, okay, I'm going to leave $100,000 in my will for the Glenn Cossie Scholarship. And what I'll say is, okay, that's going to give $5,000 a year. Why don't you start giving me $5,000? Let's do that. Set up in your will. Let's start giving me $5,000 a year right now so that you can meet your scholars while you're still here. Okay? So what happens is they'll get probably more than $5 a year before they're done because they're meeting these kids that are coming to school because of them. So you create this, you create this circle. And the last thing that's cool on that is you saw at the end it was NextU was what it was. That's an in-house student agency in our school communications that formed their own agency, and they do projects like Doe Anderson or Scopecchio or anybody else to do. So then you can tell the donor that not only is Marissa, I think she's a communications major because I was filming in the communications school, but not that, but our students are learning about agency work and creating this video they did for you. So then even though you're not a communications donor, they're thrilled that was a student-made video, and it's cool. So I mean, that embodies a lot of what we're trying to talk about. So to end, I think if you remember, I had 3 things I pointed out that Crawford talked about, and the last was stewarding the donors, and I think it starts and ends there. I think it's about relationships, it's about thanking them, and it's showing them their gifts make a difference.
I have a question. You talked earlier on as well about how fewer people are giving more. And I was wondering if you have observed any trends in terms of your recently graduated alumni, like the different stages of generational learning. Because one of the things, knowing that we're going to have this conversation tonight, I was thinking about how my university communicates with me, and like I'm more inclined to give when it's like they're looking for a number of people to give rather than a dollar amount, because it does something different emotionally. And I didn't know if that was like because I'm a millennial.
Well, that's exactly, we do a lot of that, and that's, so 2 things. One, my dissertations will be around that topic.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so it's beyond that. It's about, mine's about engagement and giving. So I've been reading a lot about this stuff. So there is that whole thing with millennials, especially. They look at education as a contract that's completed. So they're not even thinking it's a cause to give to. So that's why you see on campus lots of senior gift campaigns and all. You know, some schools will do a celebration on February 27th. It's the day when tuition and funding runs out, and the rest of the year is run by giving. You know, you can measure that 25% of the year is giving. You know, to show that not all funds, not tuition and state support or private support, you need private support to cover that up. So the day of giving is why we do day of giving is mostly millennials, because we, like our goal is always the day it's on. So last year's on 420, which I thought was funny. Yeah, most of the class didn't catch it. Most of the office didn't catch it. I'm like, Glenn, why'd you know that? That's kids. But so our goal is 420. Then I think it'll be on 421 or 419 or something. So we do set a goal. And like a telethon, we get on there and say, come on, make a gift now, give 10 more, and we hit our goal for this hour. So we worked on a rolling list of donors. research shows, I'm 51, research shows, so I'm the last year of boomers and the first year Gen X. Okay, so I'm a crossover on that. And I fall probably more Gen X, but there's also some boomer ideas that I have. But seeing my name isn't important. Millennials are showing more and more they want to see their name. Even for $10, they want their name popping up again. But then if you ever listen to any kind of radiothon on the radio or on TV, they call the names out. People like that. So those you do look at that. So we look at, for the annual giving piece, to broaden the channels as far as we can. We write multiple letters to multiple populations. We don't mail everybody every time. We might mail renewals at this time of year. So if you gave a gift this time last year, it's time again, you get your letter. If you're a spring donor, we'll do it in the spring. Or we might take, they call them live bunts and side bunts. A live bunt is last year but not this year. Means you gave last year but you're still off this year. A side bunt is some year but not this year. So it's our customers. So those are real important groups you want to get back. So you classify those by dollars. And I might write to the $1,000 side bunts differently than the $10 side bunts, because they might have different impacts with their gifts. So you break down your mail in different ways. Then you have the phone-a-thon, and you call differently there. We break those phone calls into non-donors, into live bunts, side bunts, and second-time givers. In the springtime, we'll call and get a second gift. Like around Day of Giving is a great opportunity to get 2 gifts a year. That's where Twitter and Facebook have become real big. You can sponsor ads on Facebook for close to nothing. It's such a cheap way of advertising. And then all of a sudden your friends are seeing the same thing. And they used to have those Facebook tags. We got into those for a while. Those aren't as big anymore. You can tag it, and then your friends will see you tagged it, and everyone's your tag and all that stuff. So we look at different channels to try to get to people different ways. And we try to, a big difference between U of L and Bellarmine and the annual fund is the annual fund here is college and unit specific. So if you're a graduate of college education, and you're a graduate of arts and sciences, and you're a graduate of the speed school, you're getting different mailings, and you're supporting your school. Or it might be within the program, it might be mechanical engineering, or it might be the robotics program within mechanical engineering. It couldn't come down even farther. At Bellarmine, the annual fund is by and large, it's a university annual fund, so it's centralized, and you're giving it the best for the cause of the university, which we wouldn't mind ourselves breaking it down some. We think we get some more, but the university spends the money the year that's raised. It's a budget line item, so I got to hit that nut every year because it's in the budget to spend it, and it's spent on student aid. So I can't say that. I do know where it's going, but it's general student aid. So that's the difference, and we could go on forever on that, on a centralized versus a decentralized school. And mostly your privates and your smaller schools are way more centralized. And here, the deans at a place like U of L wield way more power than the deans at Bellarmine would hold. They hire their development officers, they hire their staff, they have their unit budget officers. It's a much bigger. Have you all read Birnbaum Psychology's work for this class, for this course? It's really it's what it is. I mean, the U of L is a political organization. It's silos, and it's not good or bad, black or white. It's just what it is. And Bellarmine is much more of a collegial, mission-driven organization, and it operates differently. And then a place like Center College, I think they still have right in Danville where the professors open the door and the students come and have dinner with them. That kind of stuff happens more there. So those different models are very much in effect.
When you talked about the lady who came to you with the idea for the scholarship for her husband, how often does that happen?
Not often enough. Not often enough. I mean, that's a pretty special case, like that one. We have our the circles of influence, our tightest knit group. We're talking with them all the time. Like the one of our top donors, I know he's gonna do $100,000 at the end of the year. He told me. I said, should I come see you? He said, you don't see me. He's on the board. He's on the fundraising committee of the board. And I said, but you probably expect me to come see you for that money because that's what your board committee. He goes, I know, Glenn, but you're good. We're good. But so I mean, he's told me he's gonna do it. It'll be a year-end thing for him because of how his taxes work and stuff. So in my head, I'm counting that. On paper, I'm not yet because it might not happen. But I wish there were more like Debbie that come forward. But there are. I also have. I could probably guess at where 50% extra money is gonna come from a lot of the same, or 30, 40 to 50% of it, off the same people. You know, or 40% of my donors for sure, I can tell you who they are. I'm gonna know, and the thing about Bellarmine, even as we've gotten bigger, our like if you look at a place like U of L, there's lots of if you did a Venn diagram, there's lots of circles, and some intersect. You have the speed school, you have the law school, and arts and sciences. You have graduate schools and undergraduate, and there's some crossover. And your arts and science person in the law school crosses over, and then you might have different constituents for donors. If you overlay that, you have Card Athletic Fund donors. Each school has donors that fit inside the circle some. But it would probably be a pretty big Venn diagram when we finished it. At Bellarmine, our athletic donors and our alumni volunteers and our leadership annual fund givers and our, plan giving donors and all fit in the circles that are in a much tighter batch. It's just you know who your people are, because it's a smaller community and it's not it's complex as hell, but it's not nearly complex. I remember when I came over there from here, somebody was complaining about how political Bellarmine is. They're going, oh my God, you have no idea. This is not political at all. I mean, the administrative politics of a place like U of L are gigantic. I can imagine a place like the University of Texas or Ohio State or Michigan State that's just ginormous. Texas hired a new president last year, and before his first day on campus, he fired every vice president and AVP in the entire system. Said, reapply for your job. I mean, could you imagine that? I mean, a place like Bellarmine, I got a new president coming in. Yeah, I'm scared. But I've got these donors and these volunteers and these constituents who I don't think I think they'd have my back to a certain extent. I can still be going on in 2 days instead of 1. But the guy for Texas system came in and said, you can reapply for it, but you're on. To him is a name on a page, and there's nothing more than that. And that wouldn't happen here. I mean, oh my God. Well, then they formed 2 boards of trustees, and they couldn't decide who to fire first.
You would never do that.
Then the governor would get involved, and the mayor would get involved. Yes.
So thinking about the relationships, when you talk about those circles of influence, so what different approaches do you have to solicit donors who are not in the community? Because I'm sure that you get funding from people who are not.
Yeah, so that's not in this geographic community.
Correct.
Yeah. Ironically, and this probably parallels the history of Louisville, a lot of our wealthiest alums don't live in Louisville. The jobs took them elsewhere. So those folks are easier to get back engaged because they've made a lot of money. They want to see Bellarmine do well. There's not a lot of non-alumni support outside of the Louisville area. Even a place, some foundational support. Like we get some money from some big New York foundations. The Robert Wood Johnson Foundation out of New York funds minority nursing scholarships, and we've got a great nursing program and a great fit. They've been very loyal funders because it works, and we've also showed them that it's a good investment and it fits their niche. But
That's a grant.
That's a grant. Now there's a whole, you can talk about, there's private grants and public grants. So some grants are charity and philanthropic and some aren't. National Endowment for the Arts or National Science Foundation is not, Endowment for the Sciences is not philanthropy. When the researcher in the dental school gets a grant of $1.6 million to study XYZ, that's not philanthropy. But when the Crusade for Children gives a gift to the dental school to work on children's teeth cleaning, mobile teeth cleaning units, that is charity. When I was here, there was a whole committee on deciding how those go. The easiest way for your purposes, but if the money is philanthropic in nature, in origin, it's usually a gift. If it is given to the source as a taxable gift, typically when the next down the line, it's also philanthropic. And when it wasn't a gift from taxes or from some other funding, it's typically not a gift. So
right in the beginning of your, whenever you first started talking, you said that fewer people are giving more, and you had some percentages up there. Now, Now, there's more people going to college now than there
Mhm.
were, and so are the percentages representative of that, or?
Yeah, in fact, there's a chart that I couldn't find. Don't you hate when you know it's there, you can't find the daggone thing? And it shows the college population and giving, and the percentages, and it's still declining to this day. The national average is 8.3, I think that said, 8.4, and it used to be at 14. At Bellarmine, we're higher, we're at 18%, so we're above the national average. We're in the top 20% nationally for schools like us. But we were 40% 15 years ago. And so we've fallen precipitously also. Now, it's fallen, that average has fallen because the numerator has gotten, is the numerator at the bottom? Yeah. Denominator, sorry. The denominator's gotten, I'm a history major, remember? It's gotten, stats is a instrument. But the denominator's gotten bigger for several reasons. One, there's more graduates coming out. We've grown considerably, so that number's getting bigger. And back to that research thing, I can find you now. 20 years ago, we'd mail out, honest to God, we had half your class, and we'd mail, hey, we've lost Jim and Mary and George and Betty and all, if you know them, send it back, and we'd find people that way. Now I can change your address, I can find, if you're alive and live in the United States, we can probably find you. So that my number of alums that I can find, it used to be about 80%, now it's about 95%. So the decline is partially due to that, because the denominator is bigger. But it's also, there's more competition for money. There's way more channels of marketing for it. I mentioned the phone-a-thon a few times. It used to be, who here has a landline phone at home? Anybody? I don't. 20 years ago, 100% of y'all had a landline phone. So when you go to call, I could find you. And 20 years ago, the American family was different than it is today, and at 6 o'clock, you're all eating dinner. And I'd call you at 6 o'clock and get a hold of you, And now everybody's running to sporting events and this and that, and chasing their kids, or they're in a class listening to some guy talk or whatever, and nobody's home. And 20 years ago, the phone book came out. Anybody ever have a White Pages? I could buy that even on an old computer, and I could call you off of that. Cell phones aren't being. You have to find. We're getting better at finding it, but I can't find a listing of every cell phone in Louisville. It doesn't exist. So I can't even call everybody anymore. So then you have call waiting. 20 years ago, there wasn't call waiting, so you answer the phone every single time. Before we moved 3 years ago, we had a landline because we always had one. And the reason we didn't keep it because we didn't answer the phone anymore is it was only me calling for money, so we just didn't answer it, right? So that whole game has changed in how you reach people. And mail, my daughter in Chicago, the mailbox doesn't work, so she doesn't get mail. If you mail her anything, it has to go to her office. And it doesn't bother her because nothing's mailed. It's all there's it's like, so things have changed so fast on how you find people. There's so many more channels. It doesn't look what I do now. So I create a group on Twitter, a group on Facebook, and find you that way. And then everybody comes together that way. That's how we do it. Now what hasn't happened is social media has not monetized. You can't make as much money off it yet as you can off of the model of, it used to be you'd mail out 100 blind letters and you get a 3% return. You just knew that. Well, those type of percentages don't work with social media and with Twitter and stuff anymore. So there's more graduates, less are interested, it's harder to reach them, there's more charities. Because of social media, you're attuned to more charities. 20 or 30 years ago, you might not know of the guy who's doing crowdfunding in LA to climb Kilimanjaro for cancer research.
Or
right?
a baked potato salad, that was a big one on Kickstarter for a while.
Yeah.
Guy wanted a baked potato salad, raised $42,000.
Yeah, so there's,
So many potatoes.
and it's a lot, so I can market a lot more, less effectively cheaper, right? It used to be I had to print a really nice piece and mail it to you, less expensive. So now I'm Glenn, Startup Charity, with me working for this great cause, and our annual budget is $10,000. I could reach all you all really easily. All you gotta do is get your somehow social media or something, we can find you. Now you might ignore it, but at least I can reach you and you're seeing it. 20 years ago, I didn't know I couldn't buy your list, I couldn't afford the stamps, you couldn't mail it. Nobody was designing stuff for me. There wasn't, believe it or not, you used to go have designers design your mailing, so you couldn't do them. So I mean, it's changed so much, and we're still catching up on how that works. And there's lots and lots of research, and there's lots of ways that we're looking at getting millennials and younger people and all alums to remain engaged. So that's part of the challenge.
Could you talk just briefly, because you mentioned basically all the pieces throughout your presentation, but I know that once we finished up our $1 billion campaign, there was a lot of confusion of, okay, well, why don't we have $1 billion that we can spend right now? And that people see that, and we kind of, we have billboards that say we raised $1 billion, and so people want to think then that we have $1 billion sitting in a bank account somewhere.
Right.
But that's not what that means. So can you talk a little bit about?
Yeah, and I'll talk about it like without any of the other stuff that went on with the $1 billion, because that confuses it. So my campaign's ending up. I use mine. I'm at $94 million, and you need 100. 100 million, which for us is a gigantic number. And we've gotten back to leadership, which I didn't get on. When Dr. McGowan died, all the big money right now, Bellarmine, is on the sidelines. They're waiting for the new president. They want to make sure the vision is still the same. They want to make sure that somebody is the new president of the company, the stockholder. Do I want to invest? Or they want influence. Fair enough. If you're giving $1 million, if I got $1 million, I'm giving $1 round. Give it to the new person and make sure he knows that I gave $1 million. Why wouldn't you? You know what I mean? So a lot of these are wonderful, great people, but there's also gigantic egos. But so let's use mine, and let's say about $100 million. About 60 of that, maybe that's just a third is in cash. Came in, we spent it. So the campaign lasted 8 years. Part of that annual fund money every year you gave counts in that campaign. So we got spent already. So all the annual money that came in got spent. So it isn't like that on the $1 billion campaign that we kept it all in the piggy bank. So some, or the program, Kentucky One gave $1 million for nursing training over 4 years. Well, that was years 2 through 5 of the campaign, that money spent. So a big portion has been used. Okay, so you can't see it in cash, but you can see it in outcomes, you can see it in students, you can see it maybe they built a building, they started it, they raised the money, put a shovel in, built it, cut the ribbon. So $100 million, that's in that science building somewhere. Okay, so there's some of the money. So is in the endowment. So the endowment, Bellarmine's endowment has grown through our campaign. You can see it if I show you the balance sheet, show that our endowment grew from $30 million to $50 million. There's part of it, but the benefit of the endowment is always there, but it's only putting out 5% of that $20 million more, which is what, $1 million a year. So it's good money, but it's not $100 million. So that $1 million is there forever. And some in a campaign, the campaign rules it'd be like SACs for the accreditation. We have our groups in the fundraising side. You can count documented planned gifts in a campaign. So my biggest gift in our campaign is a $5 million estate gift. The couple is still alive. Now they're 88 years old. I mean, it's got there's lots of gallows humor in the planned giving world. We got bad news and good news. Mrs. Smith died. But that money is still in their estate. But in a campaign, you can count that $5 million if it's documented. And then within, you can get real technical. If somebody who's 40 years old gave me a $5 million bequest, I would amortize it backwards on it and make it. I'd probably book his lifetime value of it today, the present value of it, because you can't really count on a 40-year-old the $5 million gift now, who's has a life expectancy of 84 years old. So you maybe would discount that sum to account for their age. But that's what it is.
So then what is the value, I guess, and this is a question because I'm just curious.
Of the campaign?
What is the value of counting that and making it look like we have that money, but it's going to be another 20 years before you can actually cash in on that money? Like, to me, that makes it look like, oh, you have plenty, you don't need my gift.
Yeah, well, it's twofold. One is the the planned gifts that are realizing today at U of L came from 20 years ago. So it's a recurring thing. So when you finally get a history of them built up, they come in every year. And it's a method of getting large gifts from people. People can make, everybody in this room, if you have an IRA, is probably if you own property and you have a retirement savings, it's probably 80% of your net worth around there. It's in your retirement, it's in your house. So people can make big gifts in their estates because it's all, very few people, remember the comic book guy, Scrooge McDuck is sitting on a pile of gold. No rich person has all their cash in their living room. You know, it's all out there. So you can get gifts of a lifetime through estates. So it's a good method, and that's the way these schools are gigantic endowments. You build your endowment through playing gifts. Any organization, if you know, the Center for Women and Children right now, all the Habitat for Humanity, everybody is looking for playing gifts because that's how you build your endowment. Because people don't have, very few people have $10 million in cash to give you. But there's a lot of regular people who end up passing on with some pretty decent sized estates because they were student savers. True story, when I was at St. Jude, this is the little lady, she was up in Michigan. She was a school teacher, she passed away, and 4 charities got $26 million each. And we were one of them. She was like 80, and her grandfather had original Kellogg stock, like from the 1840s or wherever they got first started. And she had held those original certificates. They were probably a value back then, but they had split over and over and over. She had $120, $160 million in her estate. And she gave St. Jude like $2 $100 gifts over the years. But she had been impacted by somebody at some point in time. So I mean, that's why you do planned gifts, because there's big possibilities. And I also know that if I know you have means, and I have you make a nice planned gift to Bellarmine where you have a trust and about $5 million is coming our way. Let's just say it's that same couple, but you're considerably younger. I also now have a lifetime of you being engaged and bought in, and you have means. And because my board asked me, why'd you? Because one of my guys gave us $1 million life insurance policy, which is kind of isn't the greatest one, because it's $1 million life insurance policy for somebody, this guy was in his 40s and did it, is not that expensive. I forgot what it was, $20,000 or something to make $1 million gift, because that money they'll invest it. And so it wasn't. But I said 2 things. One, I said in 40 years we did $1 million, you can't beat that. But I said realistically, I get to steward him now for 40 years. And this person has been a consistent donor since then. Because in their mind, they made an investment. They bought in. Yeah. So you get to invest. You get to stay close to them. You get to give them a reason to come see every year and show you. If you wanted to come to the School of Business, I can come to you, present the School of Business, and talk to you about what we're doing, what's new, so you can see what your investment might help one day. And I got a reason to say, hey, but don't you want to see some of this now? And then there's a reason to do that.
We've got a guy here that's got 6 life insurance policies. He's adult and not like, I'll do this one for you, do this one for you.
Well, for you.
And it's 40.
Well,
So,
yeah, and I think they stopped it when I was here with it, but athletics, when they used to play at Freedom Hall, used to let people buy their seat licenses off of insurance policies. So you can be 25 years old and get that $100,000 seat for, at that age, for $15,000, and then they think they quit doing that. So that's a poor gift there. You don't take that. But if that guy is throwing out those $100,000, if he has 6 of them, you know what?
He's great. I mean, it's great, but it's funny.
Someday he might come, it'll pay off, and if not, it's just, and people have egos, they want to be big shots. We had a guy who wanted to, actually I want a lunch bet on this. I knew the guy was a shyster from the start, but he was going to give us $1 million. He was going to give it, $50,000 a year for 20 years or something, and that was just, come on. But the minute he said he's going to do it, he's like, so how do you recognize your $1 million donors? He's like, can I become a trustee? Like he was trying to get influence, and the guy was a sleazeball, and and like, no, you can't do this, But he was out talking to them. We heard back around. He talked as well as we do. Yeah, I gave Don $1 million, and he hadn't paid his first 50 yet. And now his financial situation has changed a little bit, and he's willing to rethink the whole thing. So we haven't, you know, so you gotta be careful. There's a whole range, you know. Ideally, every donor doesn't even write a check, because the check is bouncing with the bank. Every donor does it a credit card that would run it through my phone, or it's in cash. But that doesn't happen very often. What else? The only one I didn't touch about was governance. But I'm not sure if y'all have done that already or not, or.
Do y'all have any additional questions about that?
The biggest difference between like the Bellarmine and a U of L, and it's been really highlighted, is we get to pick our own board, and our board is typically donors, okay, or people of influence. So, like the Bellarmine board is a fantastic board here in Louisville. You've got Russ Cox from Norton Healthcare on it, you've got Ed Glasscock on it, you've got Mike McAllister, who was the head of Humana on it. You know, you got all the top corporate people. You got our wealthiest alums from across the country on it. That lady, Angela Mason, she's on it. So you get people who are either big corporate citizens who want to help Bellarmine, or your alums who've done very, very well. Our trustees we ask them to each give $15,000 a year to the annual fund. So they have a pretty high ticket to be on it. Plus, we then go for big gifts from them as well. They've contributed, of the $100 million in our campaign, they're at $29 million, the board of trustees is. So they're just under 30% of the campaign so far that they've contributed. So they are the fiduciary head of the university. They hire and fire the president. They're very busy doing that right now, hiring one. And there's a committee of the board. There's a committee for student life, a committee for academic affairs, there's a finance committee, investment committee, audit committee. There's a fundraising committee that 5 or 6 people 4 times a year sit down with me and yell at me for not raising enough money. But they're good people, and I work with them, and they help me go out and make some connections. Like one of them is letting us use at the Bellarmine plays U of L an exhibition basketball game on Monday night, and I'm using one of their suites. You know, so all of our trustees also have U of L boxes, and that's another thing. Again, where the money in the camp where they went is, you know, during that $1 billion campaign, they put the Yum Center up and resold all those boxes, and they added on to the stadium at least once or twice, and all that money those box fees go into the campaign. So you look at, like, I look at some of my trustees, and they are listed as $700,000 donors to U of L's campaign. I'm like, crap, you know, you gave me a nice gift, but it wasn't close to that, you know. Well, they had football and basketball suites at $50,000 a piece for 7 years, or $700,000. And that goes into the campaign. So when you have big time athletics, you can stoke your campaign quite a bit. And it's money, it's, you know, it's spent. So that's where a lot of it is. It's downtown and a little bit south of here. Which is good. I'm not saying it's not a good thing. It's just, it is what it is, you know.
Any closing burning questions, or is it break time?
Well, thank you. Boring questions or burning questions?
Burning questions. Thank you so much. You did a much better job than I think the chapter, or definitely better than I could have done, so I appreciate you.